I should be doing something different, I should be further along by now, I should be someone else, or that people have these expectations of me that I just cannot meet. But radical acceptance of the truth of where we are is the only way we can move forward. Hello everybody, my name is Lucy Superfox and this is my podcast. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk about being a massive failure. Seriously, there are so many things that I have failed at over the years. And I think we live in a world where we believe that everything works out for all these people all the time. And the truth is, that's just not been the case for me. So I wanted to share with you today some of the reasons why we fail, how to pick ourselves back up from failure, and how there could be things in our past that are keeping us from really succeeding and really growing and really driving forward. Let's dive in. So first things first, I want to list out some of my biggest and most spectacular failures, just so that you feel seen, you feel heard, and you just know that actually I'm just like you. So I remember my very first failure. I remember it so viscerally that it had an imprint on me for a really long time. And that was I didn't pass my 11 plus. Now, anyone that's got kids will know exactly what the 11 plus is. And anyone that doesn't will know that what it means, it's an exam you take, I think in year 5. And that allows you to go to a grammar school, which isn't a private school, but it's a school where the education is supposedly better or at a higher level than what used to be called a comprehensive school. And I remember taking the 11 plus, and there weren't all of us that took it, but it was myself and maybe 2 other girls in my class. And I didn't pass my 11 plus, although, I was considered quite a brainy and intelligent kid. What was funny about this is the 2 other girls, and I really hope they listen to this at some point, 2 school friends from way back in the day, were called Jenny and Katie. And Jenny and Katie were by all means the most intelligent people in our class from the day that I had arrived at nursery school. And I always felt compared to both of them. I always felt like I was the 3rd smartest in the class. And I don't know about you, but when I was at primary school, they would do things like a spelling test and they'd be like, right, well, this person got the most answers right and this person got the least answers right. And so I actually knew I was the 3rd smartest person in the room. So rather than being the 1st or the 2nd, I was always 3rd. And so I already felt like a 2nd-rate, or in fact, a 3rd-rate person. So then when I went to the 11 plus and I didn't pass, and I think my parents unknowingly had created a sense of kind of expectation of me that I would go to the grammar school, also because my desire was to go there. I wanted to go with Jenny and Katie, we were friends, that I was going to take this 11 plus and I was going to pass and I was going to go to the grammar school, and that didn't happen. And that was really shocking for me, to actually not pass something and not be great at something when I had been great at stuff up to this age. So what are you, 10 when you're in year 5? And I really viscerally felt that first failure. And from that first failure, a lot of what happened next was created in that moment. A lot of the need to overachieve, to strive, to be excellent, to keep growing, to always be the best. And so kind of what I call my best trauma, so my need to be the best trauma, was created and perpetuated from that moment. Subsequently then, after that, failure for me was like insufferable. It was something I would avoid at all costs. I would not put myself out there unless I thought I would win or succeed or be great or at least be really good. The thought of failing, especially publicly, was actually intoxicating to me, suffocating, and not something I would do. So I gave my all. I gave my all to my school studies. I gave my all to my education. I gave my all to my kind of any work. And I got a job at 14 because I was a hustler. I wanted my independence. I wanted my freedom. And so I was kind of caught in this trap of overachieving, of being the best, of needing to be awesome, of needing to be excellent for such a long time. But I failed again. I failed when I failed I didn't fail, I got a D. But for me, that was a failure as a previous A-star student in one of my A-levels because I really found it boring. And I remember failing again when I told my parents I didn't want to finish my degree at university and I wanted to stay in my placement year. I felt like I'd failed. I won my first bikini fitness competition with UKBFF back in, can't remember the year, but I was in my early 20s. And I was like, I am a boss. It was the first year of bikini, so I thought I was absolutely crushing it. And then I went to the British finals and placed like 10th or 9th or something and was like, what? And was genuinely in shock. So it felt like a failure again. I then went through a series of work challenges where I felt like I was failing. I went through a series of relationship breakups where I felt like I was failing. And this continued. But what I would continue to do is just work harder and give more and do more, because that was the narrative I'd bought into, that the only way to avoid failure was to succeed. And to succeed was just to keep on trying through gritted teeth. But the truth was, when I look at my life, those failures were all redirections. The failures in my late 20s when I failed to kind of stay committed to my corporate career and start my own business. Some people look at that as a failure. Some people look at that as a massive success. The next step, when I failed at my first marriage and I walked away from that marriage and, left somebody heartbroken and in pieces, that was a big failure, but it was also a redirection for us both. There were failures when I scaled parts of my business and then had to scale them back. They were failures, but they were also redirections. There were failures when I decided to walk away from coaching for a year or so just to give myself some breathing room in 2021 and ended up doing some event freelance work instead. That could have been a failure, or it could have been a redirection. The same thing with my network marketing business. I scaled to the top of that company and then my business slid backwards for almost 3 years. Is that a failure? Or was that redirection? Allowing myself to not need to be a winner all the time changed the game for me. And ironically, allowed me to be a winner more of the time. When we hold ourselves to this impossible ideal around needing to be successful and needing to be a winner every second of every single day, and that's all that matters is winning and succeeding, what we actually do is keep our nervous system in fight or flight. We keep ourselves in a survival mode. We keep ourselves in a tight, restrictive, forceful energy. And we don't actually allow ourselves to feel intuitive, to feel flowy, to move with the times, to take those moments of inspired guidance and actually run with them, because we're so fixated on a plan and a goal and a destination. And for me, one of the biggest things was feeling like that crippling failure and allowing that shame to wash over me around where I was not where I thought I was being, where I was not where I was supposed to be, and how life hadn't turned out how it was going to be. But actually that radical acceptance of allowing myself to sit with that and tell the people around me that I cared most about, and I cared most about what they thought of me and who they thought I was. That radical ability to sit there and feel that intoxicating shame of being a failure allowed me to step into the energy of being a true winner. And a winner, for me, my definition of a winner is somebody who's willing to recognize and witness their mistakes, to be curious about how they could do things different, and to have the nervous system capacity and the emotional resilience through healing and through growth and through self-awareness to be able to get back up and go for the things I want, but also to be able to lie to the side the things that I was pursuing for the wrong reasons, or reasons that I've outgrown, or reasons that are outdated, or because I should, or because it was the right thing to do, or the next thing to do. And for me now, failure looks like not going for the things that I actually desire, not giving my all to the things that I know that I want, and not living my life because I'm worried about the expectations or opinions of others. That to me is failure now, would be not living in true alignment, not living in line with my purpose and who I'm supposed to be because of a perception outside of me. So if you keep catching yourself in this failure cycle, this failure loop of feeling like you win, then you fail, or something goes right and then something goes wrong, and it feels like a perpetual trap or a perpetual cycle, then I really want you to know this. Failure is what you make it is. The truth is, when I left my corporate career, there were people that probably thought that I had failed. When I stopped coaching and did some event freelance work, there was people that probably thought, didn't work out well for her, she's a failure. There were people that looked at my first divorce and went, and hopefully my last divorce, FYI, that looked at that and went, she's a failure. And there were probably lots of people that thought, I wish I could do that too. One person's failure is another person's win. It's all about the perception. So now you know that I am indeed a massive failure, and have embraced my failures and have felt safe enough to embrace the shame that came with that. What that's allowed me to do is really step into this alignment and purpose. So I want the same for you too. So I made you a masterclass, of course I did. And you can get it by going to lucysuperfox.com/growth to get your invite. So right now you feel like you're failing, you feel like you're going around in circles, you feel like this is just not how it's supposed to go, you're not where you want it to be right now, and you just feel like redoing or doing goals again is just so far from where you want to be. What on earth do you do? Radical acceptance. You've got to allow yourself to sit with how you really feel. We're so keen to run away from negative feelings, and the one feeling that I personally run away from the most is the feeling of shame, the feeling that I should be doing something different, I should be further along by now, I should be someone else, or that people have these expectations of me that I just cannot meet. And so if you resonate and relate with that, I want you to allow yourself to feel safe enough to sit with that feeling. Whether it's, you want to book a one-to-one with me so you can sit with that feeling. You've got a therapist, you've got a friend, you've got a supportive partner you could share this with, where they're not going to try and fix you and they're not going to find a solution. They're just going to allow you to be you in that moment. But radical acceptance of the truth of where we are is the only way we can move forward. So many of us want to push against the negativity. We want to use the negativity as fuel and as fire, and we have all this kind of quite toxic narrative around that we should be pushing away from our negative feelings and using them as a jumping board and a springboard. And the truth is, negative motivation will definitely get you going. But what will keep you going is a positive, something that you want, a desire-fueled motivation that's pulling you forward, rather than a negatively fueled motivation that's pushing you forward. That when you reach a certain point, you'll just let go and slide all the way back. And that is why we often repeat failures. So that feeling of failure, that feeling of shame, that feeling of guilt, that feeling of fear, that feeling of frustration, that is the thing that's holding you back, not the failure itself. The thing that's stopping you from moving into your power, moving into your purpose, moving into where you feel called or where you're excited or where you're curious is simply the feelings that you are unwilling to feel. The feelings you've pushed down, the feelings that people said we don't feel those things. And those feelings are shame, are fear, and guilt. And they are feelings that who wants to sit with those? Who wants to experience that? Definitely not me. But the truth was, when I allowed myself to do this, when I allow my clients to do this, when we sit together on Zoom and, we're having that chat or on FaceTime or sometimes in person if they're local to me, and we're able to sit in that moment and they allow themselves to feel into the depths of the darkness, to be blunt, what that allows them to do is then to see the light. Because it's like going round a dark room looking for a light switch, when all we need to do is open the curtains. And that's simply because we're unwilling to face the fact that we're in the dark and we're trying to push away and strive away, when actually when we surrender into the feelings that we're actually running from, we allow them to be felt, we move through them, and then we release them. Emotions are energy in motion. But because our world tells us that we should live in this constantly positive, constantly up in our head, everything's really great, everyone should be motivated all the time. If you're not constantly moving, you're not a winner and you're a failure and you need to hustle. You hear how my voice changed when I got into this energy, right? We're up here. We're not in our body. And when we don't allow ourselves to feel these things, these energies, these emotions, they find themselves stuck in our nervous system. And that shows up in our fight, our flight, our survival response, physiological symptoms, emotional symptoms. But the truth and the answer to moving free from your failures into the mindset of a real winner is the radical acceptance and the ability and the willingness to sit with the darkness in order to see the light. So if you're ready to move through this, you're ready to move forward, I made you a masterclass. You can get it by going to lucysuperfox.com/growth. I hope you love this. I hope it resonated on some level. You know where I am if you need me. And I'll see you on the next episode.